tax room number 2, finance building. Again, if I can have the board members present, recite their name for the record for the special.
Ricardo Rodriguez, present.
Frank Castillo, President.
Ricardo Molina.
Javier Montemayor, present.
And myself, Ramiro Vélez III. Let the record show that a quorum of board members is present. The meeting has been duly called and notice of this meeting has been posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act, Texas Government Code Chapter 551. We'll move to agenda item 3, Pledge of Allegiance, and the Texas Pledge. Next item is public comments. Any public comments for this special meeting?
Not at this time.
All right, so we'll move on to items for information only. We have presentation of elementary, secondary school emergency relief, Esser III, return to in-person instruction, continuity of services, and use of funds and revision.
Good evening again, board members. We're bringing to you a revision to our Esser III funds. Esser stands for Elementary and Secondary School Emergency Relief Fund. As you remember, in the summer, the Biden administration through the Department of Ed awarded the state of Texas billions of dollars. Our portion of that was $127.5 million. In July, we brought you a plan what we felt we could utilize these funds for based on allowable uses, based on instructional needs, based on safety needs. And so the Esser grant requires you to do a 6-month review and of not just your plan, but also continuity of services and in-person instruction. So I'm going to go over the use of funds plan, and Ms. Rendon will go over the updated COVID protocols and return to school protocols. Go ahead. No, it's in that same line. It's in that same line. Yeah. So here's our updated use of funds plan. This was a process we followed to get to this point, and continuous meetings with the departments that get these funds. So this one probably looks familiar. It was the same concept that we followed for the original plan that we brought you, but there have been modifications due to things that came up and what TA allowed us to do. So if you look at the learning acceleration, we added money. Well, we moved money around to take care of what they call remote conferencing. Back in July, we did not know that the state of Texas or TA would allow remote conference. Ms. Lessa has explained about the 3 requirements to get remote conferencing, and we've hired teachers. We've kept teachers on, and we actually pay stipends for lessons that we give for remote conference also. So we've added money for that. We're doing the reading academies and talking with Ms. Lessa. We're hanging on to as much money as we can. Probably the biggest change came, if you want to move it up a little bit, if you look right there, this under unexpected expenses, fiscal year 22 and fiscal year 23, we're setting aside right now about $41.4 million for revenue shortfall. We've heard from the TA commissioner that they expect us to use this money to make up for the revenue shortfall that we're seeing because of low attendance, lack of enrollment, etc. We are hoping that for this 6 weeks that we're in right now, and we'll listen to the commissioner on Thursday, that maybe they'll waive attendance for this 6 weeks like they did the first 6 weeks. But anyway, we're setting aside $41.4 million. We are keeping the UBC germicidal project, the air filters. We created COVID teams. We added nurse aides, and we ordered outdoor benches. We're going to do a water bottle filling station. We're ordering certain tables for the pre-K and kinder. So all this money is still, or the plan is still there for these kind of expenses. And at the very bottom, you'll see that activities to address learning loss must be at least 20% of grant These monies total to about 46%, and we'll continue to try to hit that 20%. We will not go lower than the 20%. So this is the plan modified as of January 18, 2022, and we will be sending a TA draft amendment next week to indicate the changes that we've made to this plan. Thank you.
Where are the bonuses? Does that money ever come from there? Is it SR3?
Yes, remember, actually the one-time payment that we're going to make this coming Monday came from Esser II.
That's right.
Yes.
Good evening, board members, members of the audience, Superintendent and Mr. Trotman and Mr. Garcia. My area is going to be the back to school health and safety protocols. This is our manual that we have online. We have revised it for the last 2 years, every week probably, no joke, with regards to that. And I just want to highlight probably our most recent revisions, which we brought in January the 10th. So we look at quarantine and isolation, and they're two different things, even though you hear the word quarantine there a lot. And quarantine is used when it's close contact, and then the isolation is when there's an actual individual with who has tested positive. All of these items that we bring up before you and we update are revised through CDC guidelines and the Texas Education Agency. Sometimes they're not the same, they're not aligned. So sometimes the state is telling us to do one thing, sometimes CDC is advising us. Those are recommendations. So we normally follow the typical TEA recommendations over the CDC regulations as well. So when does the clock start? And this is a big question that we had when we came back, right? So when you calculate a quarantine, you look at, first of all, the last time you had contact with an individual who was positive. And that's when the clock starts ticking. You all approved EPSL last week for our employees, and that's day one. The last day of contact, day one, post-contact, 10 days if you're not vaccinated and so forth. Calculating isolation, that is for somebody who is individual who is tested positive. Day one is the first full day after your symptoms developed, and this is where we have a little bit of a difference, or your test specimen was collected. Because what happened is that PCR tests were taking 5 to 7 days to get results for, and that would have added 10, possibly 7 more days to that. So we're taking it, you're showing symptoms, you go get PCR, you get your results, but that's already counting the clock of your quarantine period. All right, so we looked at exposure versus close contact. We talked about this. Our district and TA allowed it for every school district. There was no way feasible that any individuals that we could socially distance more than 6 feet in a classroom when we were still coming back with 39,000 students. So they did allow the 3 feet masked, and that was critical because at that time, the first couple of 6 weeks that we had, everybody was masked. So there was really very few close contacts in that case. We looked at COVID positives, we looked at students' information and when an employee is positive, symptomatic or asymptomatic. And so we aligned all of these, we tried to align the employee to mirror the student intake forms, the quarantine periods, and so forth. So right now, everything is identical. Whatever we do for students, we do for employees. That's currently what we have in place. Right now, we do have TEA and Texas Department of State Health Services require 10-day isolation as per Texas Administrative Code. And I know CDC is now saying that you can go 5 days. And so we're tossing that back and forth right now. We've updated our charts for our campus nurses and our employees to follow, administrators. So this is no symptoms and fully vaccinated. This is close contact. This is no symptoms, not fully vaccinated. That's when you would have to go out and be quarantined or isolated. And then this is symptoms with fully vaccinated or not fully vaccinated. So a lot of questions here. We have our COVID team that the Esser funds did provide 2 individuals that are currently running those COVID teams. And that phone is constantly off, going, ringing with questions from the campus administrators. All right. This is the close contact as per CDC, and we look at, that's the quarantine for at least 5 days. We're still kind of just studying our protocols, our intakes that we're receiving, and wondering what that would do. We go from 10 days to 5 days, at least for our employees. The state does not change it for our students. Students will still be out 10 days. They've relaxed some of those guidelines for our employees. But I do want to share with you that this is the city of Laredo. This is their isolation and quarantine protocols, and they are still staying with the 10-day area and the window. More than anything else, when I mentioned that to Mr. Chamberlain and he relayed that information to Dr. Trevino, they were pleased that we were staying with that particular 10-day period at that. So it's subject to change. It changes every day. It's evolving. So any questions with regards to our protocols? Like I said, our manual is this. Anything with regards to our protocols and our procedures, we are up to 24 pages, and it's changed on a dime.
What's the difference between a cold and the COVID when they test them like for cold? Sometimes they say they test them and then they say they're positive, and then a few days later they say no, but he was cold. How can you distinguish that?
Sometimes we don't, sir. I'll be honest with you.
No, but I'm talking that district. That district, like when they're in school, they'll send them home, or they send them, hey, you got COVID, go home.
Well, we normally test them. When we have the test kits, we normally test. If they're not testing positive, they can stay. If their symptoms are not improving, then we ask them to get a
Second test?
no, not a second test, sir. Get a doctor's note because it may be allergies. The medical documentation will always supersede symptoms or a antigen test.
Mister, did you get to order the test? Remember you're gonna order 4,400.
Yes, Mr. Garza we were about to doing that, and we're very successful in getting that done. Yes, so we did. Mr. Garza.
Yes, we placed the order. As a matter of fact, the original request was going to be tonight. So the fact that we had an emergency meeting on Thursday gave us those extra days to be able to order. So we've already received 10,000 tests in. We're placing an order for another 30,000, and I shared with Mr. Gonzalez before the meeting. We got contacted from the state. We were selected as one of the districts because of our testing that we've had history. The state is going to start receiving 5 million tests a month, and UISD was selected as one of the districts to receive a portion of those tests. So they're going to be giving us tests every 2 weeks from the state level. So we're going to have more than we probably need, but not enough, right? So we're going to be testing as much as possible. In this situation, Mr. Molina, there is a factor of vaccinated versus unvaccinated individuals. So that's also to be considered. If the individual is unvaccinated and is symptomatic, then that's a different criteria.
How are they working with the kids, like from 5 to 12? Or do we have the vaccine yet, or?
We have.
Yes, sir. We have had the vaccines for a while, actually, and we've offered clinics, 2 to 3 clinics every week.
Are they taking advantage of them or no?
Some are, sir.
How's the number? Pretty high?
Last Friday, I'll give you last Friday, we opened up 800 slots. They filled in 30 minutes.
You go really fast.
This week, we didn't take appointments. It was just come. The traffic, there was no traffic. And so we know that when we set up appointments, even though people get mad because we lock it. So there's 200 slots every hour, and there was 800 slots, and they filled in 30 minutes. So those are boosters, adult vaccines, and pediatric vaccines as well.
Well, I was talking about that, like for 5 to 12, are they taking advantage? Are they going to go campus to campus?
We have been, sir. We've been doing that since October.
Okay, thank you.
Mike, I've got, so I think testing is probably the most critical element of the safety situation that we have now. Yes, at my house, I'm testing. At my office, I'm testing all my employees. How are the schools going through these testing kits? Are they, how many do you estimate? Let's say like United High School, one of the biggest campuses. Are they going through these testing kits pretty rapidly, or?
Yes, sir. So right before we came back from the Christmas break, we set up I think I mentioned it on Thursday, we set up a testing site at every one of our locations. So anybody that was coming back on Monday was eligible to test. So we gave out literally 6,500 test kits everywhere. Because of that, we probably have detected, at least, I will tell you, in this room, we tested all the substitute teachers. So we didn't want people coming in that were potentially positive. I was actually involved in testing in this particular room, and of the tests that we performed here, 225, 230 people that we tested, 21 were positive.
10%.
The majority of 10%, the majority of those individuals were asymptomatic. They didn't even know they were sick. So that we were able to prevent coming into our schools. And I would say that across the board at all of our sites, that's probably a good representation. In addition, we set up a site here at the SAC where we offered PCR testing for those individuals that tested positive to go and get an alternative test immediately, because even that is scarce in our community to be able to set that up. So we did that. What we're doing this week, just to let y'all know, is in addition to the rapid testing, we have a work with a company. They're going site by site across our district, even though we're remote, but any staff members that are on our campus are being offered a PCR test by this particular firm. So we're doing that across the board. So by Friday, we would have given that option to everybody in addition to the rapid testing. So we're certainly doing our part, and it's pretty robust. And that's probably why we were selected to get a portion of these test kits that are coming in, because of our testing that we're doing at our district.
If I may ask, I have a
Pretty good.
question regarding a student who comes in to the school. You're testing them inside, am I correct? Or in a nurse's office, or?
Yes, sir. So what we're doing with students, of course, everything's volunteer, right? We cannot force anybody to test. The only group that we make it mandatory by our local policy, by our local standards, are extracurricular. So we're testing them once a month if they choose to participate in extracurricular. All other students, number one, we have to have parental consent. That's the most critical component. And number two is they need to request the test. We do not freely test or randomly test. They come to the nurse's office typically, and they request a test. Or there might be a testing day that a school will set up, and so they'll set up a time and a location, and they'll just ask anybody that wants to come in.
So it's a voluntary?
Yes, sir.
for the
It's strictly
student.
voluntary.
And just one last question on this. So you mentioned the PCR test?
Yes, sir.
Which is a little bit clearer, I guess, more efficient.
More accurate.
More accurate. When they test and they say they test positive, do we ask somebody actually to do the PCR test at that moment, or do we send them out?
So the great thing about the rapid test is it's an immediate test as far as notification. And the other great thing that we like about it, and that's why we're very specific on the brand and the type that we got. Number one, it was training and certifying people on that particular test. But we can test in masses, so that's the best part about that particular test. We can do 50, 60 people at a time.
Right, but I want to know, do you have somebody to do the PCR test?
So the PCR, what complicates that is it's a administered test. So when we get our rapid tests, they're self-administered. I don't need to interact with the individual. A PCR test requires somebody to actually administer it. So that's what makes it difficult for us to do that. So we in-house do not do PCR testing.
So you have to send them out
Yes, sir.
somewhere else?
Yes, sir.
They're not on the campus?
That is
or
correct.
Anywhere close? Like, I was here for that Friday event.
Yes, sir.
Here, so I saw the 200 people that were coming in to test.
Yes.
And I saw it very well done, very organized. My compliments to the staff on that. But I just know that they had the PCR test readily available, but I want to know that's the case in every scenario.
We don't have that as part of our operational activity right now. What we were able to do because of that particular event is we set up, at the time that we're discussing setting up for the PCR this week, we were not 100% sure about going remote or not. So we were going to be sending them out to our schools with full staffs to be able to test everybody. But because we went remote, we were able to do about 12 schools a day. When we go back next week, we're going to continue doing the PCR testing, but it's going to be more of a campus by campus, time slot by time slot. So to answer your question is, we won't have them readily available if they test positive at a particular location, but we are trying to set up a permanent site where they can drive and get a test for that case.
Sorry,
And
I
just
have
one-
more questions, but I guess I'll ask them.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
On the, who's the, for the testing that's going once a month, that's for only athletics or?
It's any extracurricular source, so anything with athletics, band, cheer, dance, one-act play, any type of extracurricular, they are testing once a month. Now, we used to have it at one point when it was pretty heavy. We were doing it every 2 weeks, and it was taking a toll on all our staff, because again, it's testing and testing. You imagine a football team, you're testing, 100 kids at a time. But now we went to once a month at the recommendation or request of our athletics as well, that once a month is good. Now, there's some schools that test right before they go out of town, just to be on the safe side. So the minimum is once a month. They can test more often if they wish to do so, but the minimum is
That would be up to the,
the coach, the sponsor, the parents, everybody working together in agreement with that.
yeah, because I would say at least just throw this little wave, bump it back the way we had it. And then once the wave just goes over, it would be good, especially there's a lot of contact. So I'm talking about like football,
Yes.
where they're struggling, I guess when they practice out there, I mean, they're touching each other, and then I think right now it would be just to take the precaution. I know it's going to be extra work, but I mean, it's better to be safe than sorry than to lose the whole team. Like, I know we've lost, what was it, on United, where we had the volleyball team or something like that everybody, the basketball?
Yeah.
Where everybody was positive. So I think right now, since this wave's coming back, especially when we're coming back from this week, get everybody tested. I mean, it's going to be a lot of work, and I'm sorry for our employees, but I think it's better to be safe, than to be sorry later on, that there's going to be a lot of people positive coming back also.
We could certainly recommend that. One thing that I want the board to feel really assured on is, if somebody wanted to test, we did not deny them. They were test, even though we were running low, they were test available. So that I want to reassure the board that we will have tests. We will be, probably in the next week or two, we're probably going to have a lot of tests. But right now, we do have enough it's kind of like cash flow, right? We have enough to sustain us until we get a new batch coming in. So we're doing really good on that. And then just last thing, on the antigen test, the difference on that is that it does not notify you if you're positive until the 5th day typically. So you're at your full peak of positivity. The PCR test, what allows it to give you results is within 1 or 2 days of infection. So that's the advantage of being able to provide that particular test. The only disadvantage is we don't get the results until 2 days later. So those are the balances on those particular deals.
So the Binax test, what you're saying is that it only tests when you're about the 4th or 5th day of infection,
It comes out positive when you're in the 4th or 5th day of infection.
not the 1st or 2nd.
That is correct. And that's just the way the test is made in that particular instance.
So we're going 10 more days from that time you come out positive, you're going to additional 10 days.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I mean, it's just the way the luck of the draw. But if you do get a PCR test, it'll be accurate with the first 1 or 2 days of your infection.
Do you get volunteers to do this testing, or they're told to go?
Yeah, they're voluntold. And let me be honest with you, I'm very proud of our staff. I mean, everybody's testing. I mean, I'm a test administrator, Ms. Barrera. I mean, everybody's pulling their weight. Everybody's doing their part. But yes, oh yes. I mean, we provide.
Yeah, I saw that.
Some of us are already so used to it that we're just, we're goggles and we're ready to go. But we provide gowns, and they're fully protected. They're fully protected, but and we actually have to get a certificate. Like, we have to get certified. So there's a certification process that goes through that. Thank you.
Thank you, Chuck. All right, so with information, we'll move on to item for individual consideration. It's Notice of a public hearing for District of Innovation. Do we need a motion to open?
Yes, sir, we do.
A motion to open public hearing for the District of Innovation.
Second.
Motion and second to open public hearing for District of Innovation. All those in favor?
Aye.
Time is 6:41 p.m. Opening public hearing. Rendon.
Good evening once again, board members. Right before you, and I apologize it was not in your packet on Friday when you received it, but I know that they made copies for you. We bring before you our District of Innovation. We met all the requirements from the state. We have posted our our plan already online for the 30 days. And I just want to review with you all the recommendations by our District Advisory Committee. First of all, for Mr. Castillo, and just a reminder for all of you all, District of Innovation, this is our renewal. We were at it 5 years ago. It's been 5 years since our plan was approved. And so it comes back, if we want to continue with the District of Innovation exemptions, then we come back on a 5-year basis. So House Bill 1842 allows Texas Public School Districts who have continuously maintained an acceptable academic rating to be exempt from criteria that the state imposes. And that's any particular item, topic. Some of them are off limits, and so we presented these information to our committees. They have reviewed them. I know Mr. Perez here was one of the individuals who sat in on the committee. The eligibility is you must maintain an academic acceptable rating. On the first, you have to have an acceptable financial and accountability rating, and this Benavides just presented. And we established a committee to develop and approve the plan in accordance with statutory requirements. And so we've met all of the requirements. We have submitted our first notice to our Commissioner of Education. This is a timeline. We started back in August, so it is a process that we go through. And on December 2nd, we presented the plan to the DAC, and the committee voted on each one of those exemptions. For the most part, maybe there was 3 individuals who voted, I have the vote, 3 individuals who maybe voted against one, and we took one individually. So for the most part, they were all favorable, and they were all voted upon favorably. We did post, on December 3rd, we did post our district, on the district website, our plan for DOI. And so upon this notice, after if you all approve it this evening, then we will submit our second notification letter to the Commissioner of Education. And upon that, we operate on the new exemptions as presented to you all today.
This renewal would, how long would it be in effect? Would there be another 5 years?
Yes, sir. All right. And so it's on my calendar, the next 5 years. So first day of instruction, sir, the first 4 on here are renewals. These are not new items. You have a copy of the entire renewal plan. I only put bullets here. So we would like to be exempt from the first day of instruction, which is a school start date. And right now, what Texas Education Code and Administrative Code say is that we may not begin instruction for students for school year before the 4th Monday in August. As you know, this has not worked for us. We normally start school either the 2nd week of August, and actually we started even a little earlier this year. We have a balanced semester system. It's been good academic outcomes that we have had due to that, and it's an employee-friendly calendar that we've been able to implement across the years. So we would like to continue with that one. Our other one is minimum attendance for class credit or final grade. Right now, the statute is a student in any grade level from kinder to 12th grade may not be given credit or final grade for class unless the student is in attendance at least 90% of the days the class is offered. We are proposing again this renewal component, and that's actually should be number 2. We would like for that if an individual student is showing mastery and components, sometimes there's COVID issues now, that they don't have to make up the 90% rule in order to be promoted. And so no principal's plan of action would have to be implemented and so forth, but we look at the child's mastery, what he has learned, are they ready for that next grade level or not. Number 3, designation of a campus behavior coordinator. That's a renewal as well. A person at each campus must be designated. And it's only one individual, so what we have done in the past, and it has worked, is that we identify all campus administrators to be a campus behavior coordinator. This is for disciplinary reasons and purposes, where we must contact a parent as soon as possible of a disciplinary infraction at the campus. It is impossible to have one individual at one campus do it. The next one is teacher certification for career and technical education and dual credit. This allows us the flexibility that if you have, if you hold standards in a field outside, not necessarily certified. Now, I always like to use the FFA program, the AG program. If you are a rancher and you're a successful individual, but not necessarily a certified teacher in that particular area, or a auto shop teacher, you have that experience, you're not going to find a certified individual to come and teach shop class to a particular student. So we use the experience that these individuals have as opposed to teacher certification, and we would like to continue that exemption as well. Number 5 is a new one. This one is ejection of an individual from a facility. And right now, we have written, I believe, maybe 2 or 3 letters of warning to our parents. And we have noticed an uptick in individuals who are very angry at everyone. And so sporting events, basketball games, soccer events, even at teachers. And so right now, the statute, the way it is written, is that you have to give them 2 warning letters before you can remove them from any facility. You have to have an appeal process if they are willing to have an appeal process before we can ban anybody from coming back to an activity or to a school event. And so we would like to present this information for you all. I will tell you that when we presented this to the DAC, the District Advisory Committee comprised of teachers, mainly teachers, about 85% of those were teachers. They were very supportive of this action because they are feeling a lot of hostility from our community members in some instances. And so when I presented to the principals as well, actually they clapped and cheered because they know that the process, when I go level 1, level 2 warning, and then I have a peace officer go talk to them, by that time it's 2-3 weeks and it's not an immediate response that we have because it is a process.
Is there a policy on this?
It would have to change, sir. When I meet with TASB, the policy revisions would have to be revised.
We're going to have to do a policy for this?
Yes, sir.
We should have done it for a long time because we've been having this problem for the longest time.
Yes.
It would be difficult to do a policy change without the District of Innovation because this policy basically mirrors a statute. So what they're doing with the District of Innovation is circumventing the statute to be able to make up more local policy.
The next one is number 6, school day interruptions. In case you didn't know, the TEA limits announcements other than emergency announcements to 1 announcement per day. So we wanted to have police flexibility without anybody. I don't think we'll have TEA police coming in, but just wanted to be make sure that we would have this particular area taken care of and not necessarily be in violation of this. Suspension of students in grades below 3. So right now, the way the statute is written is that no student below the age of 3, which is below the grade level 3, may be placed in out-of-school suspension. And that has been a little difficult for our campus administrators at the elementary level. Elementary campuses are probably the individuals, the campuses that have the least amount of other staff members, support staff, to go and take care of a particular child. So when we want to isolate a student on ISS for in-school suspension, that takes my pre-kinder teacher aide or anybody else to cover this particular class or this particular student. We have had students who have been aggressive in the classrooms, bitten others, hit other individuals, but we cannot place them in out-of-school suspension. We still will follow all of the requirements, no more than 10 days per school year, just like we do with anybody above grade 3. And we're not asking to out-of-school suspend homeless students because that's a whole other issue as well. So this is also being looked upon very favorable by our elementary teachers because sometimes hands are tied when there's extreme circumstances at a campus. And the last 2 on here, number 8, staff development. We are looking for not necessarily what the state requires. We just wanted a little bit more flexibility, still adhering to that because we know what they are asking us to do, but sometimes it's over and beyond the requirements, and we're not meeting necessarily our local needs. So we would like those flexibilities to conduct our staff development in accordance with the district needs and to improve our educational programs within the district. And the last one on here is the teacher mentor program. This is for mentoring of a new teacher to the district, where the state is very, very specific in they have to be in the same school, they have to have they can't have less than 2 years. Well, we're tapping our same teachers constantly. And some teachers at a campus don't want to serve as a mentor because you've got to meet with an individual. So we're looking at some flexibilities. I know Mr. Canales and Mr. Garcia have already worked on the manual for that. And so we are ready, if anybody doesn't necessarily at a campus want to do it, well, we have some flexibilities as well. So this is, in a nutshell, this is our District of Innovation exemptions. There are 9 that we would like to, 4 for renewal and 5 new additional ones.
Can I ask a question, please? In regards to the mentor program, we currently have that?
Yes.
Or we don't?
Yes.
So you already have that?
Yes, sir.
Well,
But we
what is it?
normally tap our same individuals. They have to meet
So-
with a
so
teacher,
we have a
they have to
mentor
attend
here.
classes, they have to partner up, they have to show them how to do grades, they have to do this. And so it's very specific duties that they have. There is a stipend for these individuals, but sometimes, we just want to have the flexibilities to tap into other individuals as well.
So you have that because new teachers need some guidance.
Yes, sir. Yes, we have a mentor program for administrators as well, for principals. That is not necessarily a stipend, but for teachers, it is a requirement to have across the state.
Very good, thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. All right, so we have discussion, that's a discussion, and any public comments signed up for? No, sir.
And really quickly, since there are no public comments, I'd advise to make a motion to close the public hearing before taking action.
Make a motion to close the public hearing.
Second. Motion to close, and a second. All those in favor to close public hearing?
Aye.
All right, time is 6:53 p.m. Public hearing closed, and then we need an action for that?
Yes, for discussion and possible action regarding District of Innovation Plan.
All right, do we have,
Make a motion to approve the plan as presented.
motion by Mr. Montemayor, second by Mr. Castillo, to approve as presented by Ms. Rendon. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? None opposed. Motion passes. We move on to item B, for consideration, discussion, and possible action, United Independent School District Management Fellowship Program. And this is an item that we've discussed in the past. Mr. Castillo has brought up. And the last time, if I remember correctly, I think we had moved it for a future date. I think the issue that's arising is that we don't have it funded, or there's no funding on that program right now. So,
Can I make a motion just to remove it for right now? I think that was my motion since the very beginning.
all right, so we're, motion for, what will be the motion, Mr. Rodriguez?
To remove it,
Can you move
or now to remove
remove it? I second that motion.
All right, okay, so motion a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed, none opposed, motion passes. Item C, discussion and possible action regarding board member assignments to business and instructional committees. All right, so this is where we designate, there hasn't been an official designation after, I think, July meeting, if I'm not mistaken. So we're, do you have a motion there? Is there any?
I just make a motion to just leave it the way it is and just put up Mr. Javier Montemayor as the chairman for the instructional, and I will be the chairman for the business.
Okay, so who are the current members that, as it is, as they're assigned?
I think, yes, my understanding, okay, for the business, it's myself, Mr. Molina, and Mr. Roberto Ramirez. And then for the instructional, I think it's Elisa Oliveros, Mr. Javier Montemayor, and Mr. Frank Castillo,
On instructor, okay. And then just assign the chairmen.
which would be Javier Montemayor for instructional and myself for the business.
Second?
All right, so we have motion and a second. Any further discussion?
Yes, I
Mr.
would
Castillo?
like to discuss the possibility of me joining the business committee. I expressed that because I thought that's where I could best serve in the capacity of being involved with the business And so that's my thought still, is trying to see if I'm able to join that committee.
Okay, so, all right, so that's the discussion. Let's vote on the motion, on the second, and then if you want to do another sub-motion or sub-motion.
Well, I can right now.
You can right now?
I'd like to make a.
Call for the vote.
I would like to finish making my motion that I be included in the business committee.
All right, so motion by Mr. Castillo, so how would it be on the assignment, sir?
Call for the vote, Mr. President.
Well,
Yeah, we have to do a sub-motion first, the way it's,
everybody wants to go to the instructional committee. There is as well.
right, so okay, so you want to be on the business? but-
That's correct.
All right, so your motion would be to include yourself in the business, and
That's
then
correct.
how would everybody else be assigned?
I don't know if there's anybody who wants to go to the instructional committee.
So it's your motion, so you want to assign them, and then we'll vote on it.
Calling for a vote.
So, Mr. Castillo, right now you have a motion to place yourself on the instructional committee, is that correct? Okay, we don't have a second on that yet.
Business finance, he wants to be on the business.
Okay, excuse me, he wants to be on the business, so you have a motion to place yourself on the business committee. We don't have a second on that. Do we have a second on placing Mr. Castillo on the business committee? If there's no second,
No
then
second,
the
motion dies.
pending motion is on the floor that Mr. Rodriguez made.
We'll go to the original one, so we have motion and second, all those in favor for Mr. Rodriguez's motion? Aye? Aye. All right, so all those against? All right, so 3 in favor, no other mention, so motion passes as discussed by Mr. Rodriguez. So we'll move to adjournment, 6:58 p.m., adjourning the special call meeting.